Aye. Right. So
that's okay.
yeah. So we're now recording. We are streaming from Zoom to Facebook, as some of you will see in a minute. And I think there's 8 of you there already. We're just going to give it a minute or two because we said 7 o'clock and it's 18:58 in the UK. So there were 17 of you already, which is fantastic. And it's lovely that you've found time to join us. We will answer questions, and Joe's going to set a little prize giving or competition. We'll come to that after the introductions and Joe's little treat for you all. So it's quite funny, really, because I'm watching us on the Facebook page, Joe, and I've got subtitles, which I've never seen before. So, Joe, just say something and see if it subtitles you.
Hello, this is Joe. No,
it's just about a sentence behind.
Oh, okay.
What I'm hearing you say live, because I've got it on mute on Facebook, so I can see my head with the books behind me. See you with your scary backdrop. So yes, we've got people from New Zealand joining us. A lady called Rachel. Hello, Rachel. Don't know what time it is where you are. Joe's agent and publicity lady is New Zealand based, and Dylan. Yes, we're excited too because it's so nice to reach out to the fans all around the world that we just couldn't get to you all easily. I mean, Joe loves touring, and it is something we want to do and get the books and the author out to you, the fans, wherever you are. But we think it's going to be a little while. It's very strange seeing the subtitles. So Joe's with us now. I think we've got 1 minute, and then we'll do the full official everything rolling. And nice to see Tristan, who's always joined us when we've done these things. And I'm hoping we see our friend Rebecca, who's been doing some art for you, Joe. Rebecca from America.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, thanks. It's great.
I think have you and your publicity people put some of it on Instagram recently?
I think Linda's put some on. I think she's put it on the website as well.
Well, that's all right. Well, there's something for folks who might be a bit arty. If you do some fan art, you can pop onto Joe's website, or you can probably send an attachment. Oh, Joe, you went quiet then.
Am I all right? Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. You might even be able to send an attachment through the Facebook Messenger facility. It's 8 a.m. in New Zealand. That's not too bad, is it? That's not crack of dawn.
I think they're 13 hours ahead, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we've got Philippe in France, and we've got Ludmila. I don't know where Ludmila is, but please do let us know where you're based, Ludmila. And it's lovely. And Luana from the US. And we've got Rose from Wales, Christiana. Now she thinks you are John Gregory in real life.
In real life,
I always thought that when I first started working with you, Joe, which is 15 years ago, I think. I always thought you'd written yourself as John Gregory. I just had that in my head.
Yeah, I think both Tom and John Gregory are based on me to a certain extent.
Yeah, so we've got Dylan's up in our neck of the woods. He's northern England. Good place to be, Dylan. And Jay is over in Manchester, which will allow that to be in the county, I think. Jay, I think, and Jay's been getting spooks tattoos. You'll have to carefully, if allowed, Jay, get someone carefully to take a photo of one or two and share it over. And wow, we've got someone in Trinidad and Tobago, Joe. Someone from Bladen, Tristan's French, Stefan is in Trinidad, Christy Jones in Nottingham. Well, we did Nottingham. We did a big tour to Nottingham, Joe, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
We've got our Pete from India, so people are joining us from everywhere. This is amazing. This is what Zoom and Facebook and Christmas can do. Right, I'm going to go quiet now, folks. Joe's going to give you a little introduction. He's got something to share with you that I am sure you will enjoy. And then really, we're going to open it up for questions. And Joe very kindly has signed 5 copies. Can you see them, Joe? Are they in front of my face?
Yeah, they're clear enough. Yeah,
yeah.
fine.
We've got 5 copies of quite a rare book, Joe. Really, isn't it? It's the first
hardback is, yeah. So
the first UK hardback of a book. You can tell them a bit about it when we set the question. Called The Ghost Prison. Did come out in America, but it had a very different look in America. I think they had the same illustrator that did the Spooks books, Joe, didn't they? Is it Patrick Hammersmith?
No, well, it might have been, yeah. But I thought
Yeah.
it was a different publisher. Though.
Oh, it could be.
It could have been somebody else. Yeah.
It was, but it totally different look. It's illustrated throughout. Joe assigned them. 5 of you will get a copy of this by entering the Facebook chat later. So, Joe.
Yeah.
Shall we let you start by saying hello to everyone? And
okay.
I'll just put you on full screen, which is better. And
can I be on full screen for myself as well? So
are you on full screen? Yeah.
Yeah, so I can actually.
Yeah.
I'm a little picture of myself in the top corner at the moment. It don't matter, don't worry about it.
You not got your full screen on mine?
Don't worry, it's no problem. I'll just start. Okay.
Okay, you should be full screen because you are at my end.
Doesn't matter, so it's fine.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah, I can see myself. Okay, shall I start?
Right, folks, so welcome in and over to Joseph Delaney, our best-selling author.
Hello, everybody. Just to bring you up to date on what's happening at the moment. I've been working on the Wolf books. Wolf 3, which I've been working on for months and months, it's gone off to the editor for the final draft, and it got through that. So it's been formally accepted. You always wonder if they'll reject it at some point, even though they commission it. They really could turn around and say, "Oh no, we don't like it this time. It's not good enough for it." They could, in theory. It's unlikely once you've worked with your editor. But yeah, she's accepted it. It's gone through the copy edit process, and that's once another stage done. And now it's actually going to come back for proofreading sometime in January. So we can say that's all done and dusted. Wolf 4. I've begun Wolf 4, and I'm about a third of the way through it. I mean, on average, I would say that the first submission of a book in the Spooks series or the Wolf series is around 60,000 words or something like that. And I've now just completed 19,000 words, which was my target, because by the end of March, I think they think they're going to get it. They probably will, but it may take another month. But I'm okay. I'm on schedule. But I'm now going to take a break. I've decided that I've done a third. That's fine. I feel that I'm on my way. I've not got the full plot in my head yet. As I've said to you many times before, I discover my plots as I proceed. But I feel confident enough that I can finish it and will finish it. And therefore, I've taken a few. I'm going to take a month now, maybe only 3 weeks, to work on my science fiction book, adult book. And I think I probably mentioned this before. I started off as a science fiction writer before, and I got rejected. A lot of rejections. I ended up as a children's writer, writing fantasy. But I was originally a science fiction author, and I wanted to be published in that way. Now, I'm trying again. I've pulled something out that I've been working on since maybe 2006, when I first did a little bit of it. And now it's more or less the first book of a series of maybe 2 or 3 is completed. And I've not got a publisher for it yet, probably because it's not good enough, or I hope it will be eventually. I'm talking to an editor, though, an editor who's working with me on it. It has to, well, all books, eventually, if they're going to be accepted and published, they have to go through what's called an acquisition meeting. So the editor, once he's happy, if he ever is happy, he may never be happy enough with it, I don't know. He takes it along to the meeting where all the suits sit around the table, the accountants and whatever, and they decide whether it's worth buying and publishing. So that's what I'm hoping to do eventually. So he's read the first draft. He's made suggestions, which are very good suggestions. I've worked on it, but now I'm going to spend 3 more weeks, and then it will go off. And I know he won't take it, but hopefully it'll be one more step along the way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read something I've never read to anybody before. I'm going to read you the first page or so of the book. And I won't even tell you the title. I'll just start. So this is the first chapter. Well, I've got to be honest with you. Sometimes when you write a book and the book develops, what was the first chapter ends up either cut completely or it ends up as chapter 3 or something like that. So I cannot promise that if the book's ever published, this will be the first chapter. But for now, it is my first chapter, and this is the chapter. This is where I'd like it to begin. So I'm going to try and read it to you. I've printed it off. Here we are, you know. I should have printed it. My eyes are going as I get older. I should have printed it off in larger print, actually. The font's a little bit small, but I've got a good light on it's on top of the computer keyboard. So I'm hoping I can actually read it to you without making too many mistakes. So here we go. And the first chapter is called Into the Roid. Now you might think, what's the Roid? Well, if you think asteroid, but they call it the Roid. I was sitting on the bed in the medical room, waiting for them to give me the injection that would almost certainly kill me. Two men came in. One was the captain of the star barge. He was dressed in full formal military uniform, adorned with silver buttons, dark blue epaulets, and shiny black boots. I'd never met him before. I'd only seen him at a distance. 3 paces behind him loomed the medical orderly, a big man, dressed in a baggy grey vest with blue trousers. He was carrying a syringe in his right hand. There were dark circles of stale sweat under his armpits. It had to be somebody, and they chose you, Sev, the captain said, stepping forward to lay a proprietorial hand on my shoulder. I want you to know that you'll never be forgotten. Your sacrifice has got us beyond the Sentinel and through the gates to a new life. Without you, I had a question. I tried to speak, but the words stuck in my throat, and I had a brief choking fit. Once the spasm had passed, I tried again. What do you think he'll do with me? I asked. The captain smiled apologetically and gave the slightest of shrugs. The truth is, nobody knows. He made us want to study you. You could well have an interesting life ahead of you, one full of wonderful new experiences. Alternatively, I thought, I might well end up cut up into little pieces for observation under a microscope. Perhaps it was just a dead body that Sentinel wanted, a sample of tissue. Our galaxy was dying. The stars going out one by one. We were migrants on our way down the gravity line to a new life in a new home, where nascent stars still bloomed into being, and end-stage entropy was just a distant threat. But first we'd have to receive permission from he who guarded the way, from the powerful Sentinel who commanded the Roid, that hollow fortified world that barred access to those who were not chosen. We weren't the only ones fleeing the slow, cold death that waited those who remained behind. Many fleets of ships, many species were waiting their turn to escape to the chance of a continued life. Most contained alien life forms. Being so different in appearance and behavior to humans, they had the most difficult time, were often kept waiting for many years in quarantine before finally being allowed to pass. Either that or rejected and banished into the outer darkness to die. However, for those races of mankind, the process was a little kinder, at least for most of those on board the star barges. Mostly it was routine. Everybody was scanned from afar, then very rarely a permanent sample was demanded. One human was plucked from the thousands on board and taken into the Roid to an unknown fate. Few were ever chosen, so why did I have to be one of them? The orderly stepped forward and pushed up my sleeve, looking for an easy target. This one's winking at me, he joked. You'll only feel a very slight scratch. He chose the prominent blue vein in my elbow joint. I didn't even feel a scratch, but my mind was in turmoil. I watched him depress the plunger, forcing the faint yellow liquid into me. Almost immediately, my vision began to darken. It quickly became difficult to breathe. My heart was thudding hard, but getting slower and slower. Have you anything to say, Sev? Captain asked. Any last words for the grateful inhabitants of this barge? They were recording everything for posterity. I struggled to find words, but I was terrified, and then it was too late. I fell into darkness. I awoke, naked, cold and shivering, gazing upwards into a light of intense brilliance. My knees were trembling. I found it hard to remain standing. Was I in the Roid? I glanced to my right and left, but could see little but vague shapes looming in the darkness, oblongs and cubes. Nothing was moving there. It was within the light that the threat lay. At its center was a sinister, shifting silhouette. It was human in shape, but it seemed very large. Fear began to clutch at my heart, tightening my chest. I controlled it quickly as a voice spoke. It sounded human, just very harsh and loud, and I couldn't imagine the mouth that could generate such an alarming, abrasive sound. I am the sentinel, and you are my servant, the one I have summoned to the Roid. To obey me is your duty. I'm here to teach you the tasks that you must perform. Do you accept your role, or shall I cast you into the darkness and choose another? I stared back into the bright light, up towards the liquid darkness at his center. I was afraid. I tried to speak, but could not form the words. I await your answer. Are you prepared to accept the role that I offer? Will you obey me and do your duty? Yes, I will do my duty, I said, forcing the words out. I will be obedient. What else could I say? What was the darkness? Was that death? Then cover your nakedness, and I'll begin to teach you. I looked down and saw clothes at my feet. A shirt, trousers, socks, boots, a belt, a pair of green overalls. Quickly, I pulled them on, doing as the sentinel had instructed. Yes, I will be obedient for now. I wanted to live. And there we are, the first chapter.
Excellent.
So I don't know what my editor will do with it. He might say rubbish, throw it out, or he might suggest other changes. I don't know, we'll see. It's just a little bit of it that there's a lot. And I don't want to say too much about it, giving too many secrets away, but I quite enjoy. I like it. You know, who do you write for? You know, do I write for children? Not really. Well, I do and I don't. I want children to like my books, but I write for myself. And when I'm writing that, I'm writing for myself. I want to be a science fiction adult author as well. But to be quite honest, I'll tell you something as well. There is nothing, I don't think there's anything in that book that will make it unsuitable for children. You know, there's no more extreme violence than there is in any of the Spooks books. No gratuitous sex or violence or anything like that. It could be read by a child. And I suspect a lot of children, if you call a 14-year-old child, would be able to read it and understand it.
Excellent. I think the instant answer to you reading that, Joe, is everyone already wants to pre-order it. It'll be out.
We're talking a few years away.
At least a year and a half, won't it, before it hits?
Well, this is the trouble, you see. I don't think if it does get by the editor, well, when my editor, if he's happy and he takes it to the acquisition meeting, that's probably going to be later next year. And then we're talking 18, you could be talking 2.5 years before it hits the bookshops.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to keep in, we'll have to do a very subtle read a chapter a month to people on here. Maybe.
I know,
keep quiet about it.
Of course, if it gets totally rejected, I can also put it on the website.
Then
people can read it.
Chapter, if it gets rejected, which it won't, let's hope, we could do a chapter a month, couldn't we?
Or I could put it out as an ebook. You know?
Yeah, I'll go through some of the comments. I'll go through some of the comments for you in a minute. But shall we elaborate on how any of you tonight, the 5 of you, will get a very nice signed copy of this, The Ghost Prison. So, Joe, what do we want people to tell us to stand a chance of being plucked as a winner? Probably be judged just after Christmas, won't it? When Linda, your PR, you know, has a moment to go through the chat. So what would you like to
You're asking me, and I'm not quite sure what we're.
No, I know, no.
But I think it was. Where did you first, find out about spooks? Was it that, and why did you first? What drew you into the books? What made you want to read? Was that it? Yes,
it was. It's how did you become a fan of the Spooks series? So I'm sure you've all got an answer to that. So it's quite a fair question, because it's not so much a right or wrong question or anything that you've got to have heard the Joe's reading and pick something out. We would genuinely like to know how you did become a fan of the Spooks books. So all you need to do is obviously we can see your names. Just say, I first discovered the Spooks books, and then write your answer in the chat. Joe's lovely PR publicist, she does all that sort of stuff, Linda, and she's New Zealand based, like one of our watcher listeners tonight. She'll go through it all probably next Tuesday or Wednesday, and then she'll message the 5 winners. Then I'll get your addresses and I will get the books to you wherever you are. The other reason we pick Ghost Prison is it will post very easily. If we pick Spooks Battle or the Bestiary, sometimes they just take a long time to get there in the post. So we'll go through a couple of these questions. You just have to bear with me, folks, because there's lots of you, 69 of you so far. So Carol wants to know, can you remember what gave you the actual idea for the Spooks books?
I think basically my interest in folk tales in Lancashire and boggarts, I think that's how it all started. But I've told this story many times before, so I won't go into great detail. But I moved house and I moved to a place which had a boggart. It's a village called Stolmine. It's across the River Wyre from Blackpool and Fleetwood in the north of England. And I found out it had a boggart. I mean, the village, I mean, there's a folk tale about it. It had plagued the local church, thrown rocks on the church roof, rattled the church gate. And they brought in the priest, and the priest exorcised it and he bound it under the step of a cottage belonging to the church. And of course, I looked at that, I put it in my notebook. I hadn't thought much about it. I thought, boggarts, that's good. And I thought, a man who deals with boggarts, an expert who deals with boggarts and sorts them all out, you know. And I didn't do anything with it for 18 months, but then I came back to it and that's what happened. I looked at it and thought, that could be publishable if I could write it properly. And I thought, we'll have a boy, an apprentice, a young boy, and we'll have a guy, not a priest, we'll have a spook. And the spook will teach the boy how to fight the dark, and we'll call them Spooks and Spooks Apprentices. And that's how it began. It all came out of a house move, really. At one time, I wanted to move to the south of England. I wanted to move to Cornwall. I definitely like those places, but we ended up moving not that far from Preston, from where we live, Leyland. We just moved a bit nearer to my place of work, which is not too far from Blackpool, to Stolmine the village. And as it had a boggart, that began the Spooks Apprentice. That's how it all began.
So we've got Isabel over in Brazil saying hello. You're pretty popular in Brazil, I think, Joe. From
in Brazil,
yeah. I mean, isn't this the nice thing around the world? There's people that discover a book that initially might not be tied to their culture and such like, but a book series of books like yours seems to be universal. And there was someone a minute ago saying that their dad's a big fan of Dune, and therefore
I like Dune.
Looking forward to the sci-fi book when it comes out. Well, I mean, Dune's meant to be amazing, the film. We'll have to at some point find time to go and see it.
Tony, I've always said that, I mean, Lord of the Rings obviously was one of my inspirations, but the Dune books, particularly the first one, which is, I think it's better than the others, quite honestly. It's exceptional. The first book has been my science fiction inspiration, It's probably the best ever science fiction book ever written, really, I would think.
Yeah, well, just talking briefly as well, Luann, sorry, Luann, can't remember where you said you're from, but yes, libraries are very important, Joe, aren't they? I mean, you know, I think without libraries, lots of authors wouldn't gain the readers that become fans. I mean, you know, what would you say, you know, in answer to how do you support
it? I mean, I think it's terrible that like in England particularly, and it's happened in Lancashire, a lot of libraries have closed over the last few years. And libraries, in a way, got the Spooks Apprentice started for me in a big way. Because I remember when it first got published, I remember walking down a street in Preston, and I looked across the road, and there was my book in the window. I was amazed, but nobody was really finding out about it much. I mean, the publisher makes some attempt to actually promote it, but Preston, Lancashire Libraries picked it up. It a lot to them. My very first event really was a Lancashire Libraries event, you know, and I went along.
You were runner-up for the Lancashire Schools Book of the Year award, probably with that first book, was it then?
I was, yeah, several times, several books, yeah. But I found myself in the early days, and I met you within 12 months, Tony, didn't I? We did events together. But I wasn't doing schools as much. I think my very first event was my son Stephen's a teacher, and I did his school for practice, yeah. But my first real event was to a bunch of librarians and teachers and whatever in Lancashire County Council, but building offices. And then they found me lots of events. So then I found myself doing the rounds of libraries. So that's how it all started.
Well, we used to have a superb network we're between Liverpool and Preston now, where I'm based, aren't we?
Yeah.
And we were talking about this the other week. I think there were 15 school librarians when you first took off, and you won Sefton Super Reads. So we had a big party and an award ceremony, and we had a meal out. And of those 15, how many did we work out were left? 2, 3,
we did.
4, was it?
We went that night. We had a meal, didn't we? We were all there with a picture of it. And there's you, there's me. There was a guy called John who worked with you at the time.
That's right, yeah.
And there were, I think, 15 librarians around that table.
Yeah.
And each one of those was a contact. Each one of those was somebody persuading children to read and offering books through the school library, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought it was amazing, really. And then now, you know yourself, how many are there left?
I think we thought 3, maybe 4. Although I'm an honorary librarian at the moment, so I've been given a little sideline role by a friend
Yeah,
of
Tony's
ours.
working in a library at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a friend
school
of
library.
ours who is a big fan, and their daughter's a big fan. Sally Ann is an English teacher, and she loves getting children's authors introduced into her students at her school. And the librarian at the school fell the other week and broke her wrist or her arm, needs an operation. So she's roped me in to be the school librarian for a while, and it's been great fun. I've made sure your books have got a nice eye-line shelf, Joe. And
I'm in a
is
good
on
position.
June.
You
Yeah.
need to be on a good shelf. Yeah.
Well, I do believe you signed some books for some of the pupils earlier, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yes, there was a little. You did a Zoom for them the other day because we've got slightly stricter restrictions again over here. I don't know. Hopefully, everyone out there, it's not affecting you too much. It's not fun and it's not fair. But no, you did a talk to some of the children, and we had some of the Mordven Witches, Brother Wolf. A couple of them were up to date and wanted Wolfsbane. There was a couple of ghost prisons, wasn't there, and an apprentice. A nice mix. So we've got I think we've had this question before, Jay, but I'm sure Joe will answer it. The original covers, Joe, the ones
Yeah.
I first loved because they had a feel,
Yeah.
let alone a look.
Yeah.
How would we ever get your publishers to realise that there's fans out there that would still buy them? What can you
I
even
don't
just
know.
shed
I've
any
got,
light on it?
this is the original. Can you see that?
Let me have a look. Yes.
Yeah. That's David Wyatt's cover.
Yeah.
That's what he did. I don't know if you can see it properly. That's his
Yes.
original. Yeah, you saw it. Yeah, that was his original drawing, which he signed to me. But he did the covers of the original ones. You know, I think France is the only other country in the world that's actually they've used those covers longest. They've kept to the same style, and I think they were different. If I remember rightly, I don't remember the Lemony Snicket books.
Yes.
When my book was coming out, my editor was desperately trying to find something different, something new that would look good on the cover and everything. And they were going to go with Lemony Snicket. The Lemony Snicket had a significantly different cover at the time. They were going to go with that. But then suddenly out came the Spooks cover. It was like false leather, and it looked like leather to a certain extent. And that was a new technology, something for producing covers. And so we jumped onto that, and they became the Spooks Apprentice covers. But they only carried on to about number 5 or 6, I think, something like that. And then they had the trouble is they're always trying to sell books with a different way. So they tried lots and lots of different covers. And some of the covers afterwards were really good. I like the Grimalkin cover. I mean,
yeah,
really
no, I mean, the artwork of the covers and of the Brother Wolf and Wolfsbane, the artwork is brilliant. It's just there's something about that old style that just makes you want to hold the book and keep hold of the book. So we've got, I apologise if I mispronounce anyone's name because we're reading live from the screen. There's a lady in the Philippines, Rain, and she just appreciates how you built the character between Tom and his mum, between Tom and Mam. That was what got her.
right,
I mean, did you reflect on your own mother? I mean, is Mam based on your own mother, Joe? Can you think back to that?
My characters develop back when they start to talk. I get the characters through dialogue, the way they speak. I think really that's how they come to life for me. But I think there was something of my mother in it because my mother was she believed in you had to do this, you had to do that. And I was an apprentice. I've said this before, but I used to go to work and repair machinery, not deal with boggarts. But I didn't want to go. It was horrible. Like, imagine you had to be there for 7:30 in the morning. Imagine in winter when it's snowing, ice on the ground. It was a half-hour walk from my little house all the way to the factory where I was an apprentice engineer. I hated it. And I wanted out, but there was no way. I couldn't even have a day off. If I had a cold, she'd make me go to work. My mother believed it was your duty to work. You'll go to work, And basically that's gone into the books. Because you know the Spooks Apprentice story, what happens? Tom's mum, he wants to pack it in. He wants to work on the farm again, back with his brothers. He don't want to do this horrible, scary job when you have no friends and people cross the road when you approach them. But she says, you will become a spook because you will stand against the door. That's why I had you. Yeah, you're a seventh son of a seventh son, and that's why you were born. It's your duty. Go back, lad, and work. And that was something based upon my own mother to a certain extent, anyway.
So Tristan's asked about other spin-offs of the Spooks. Have you got something already stored in your head that would go into another part of the Spooks world? Have you, would you go back before Tom and Spook Gregory, or would you go sideways and have a spook who went away from the county? Have you ever thought about that?
I think I could. I mean, Bill Arkwright's someone who I killed off, and I wish I hadn't. I almost feel like I could go back and do some of Bill's, give Bill an adventure. He's in it. I think he's in the Witches short story collection, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's quite a big part in that. I think I could do Bill Arkwright. I think, and then people have asked me this before, and I even started this, but I didn't get very far with it. Mam, the story of Mam. What was it like to be Mam? And I think she's a story all in her own right as well. So I will say, go on.
Dylan's popped another comment in. He put one in before, and they're flying by so quickly. But Dylan, this is great. Dylan's a bit of a writer himself,
All right.
And he's actually doing a fan fiction thing. You've done a feature on that on the website.
Yeah.
So his premise is to have a female spook taking on an apprentice. Do you like that idea? Is that something?
I think it's an interesting idea.
You should encourage him to keep writing, and maybe it will get featured at some point. You're doing a fan zone on the website, Joe, aren't you?
Yeah, there is. There's fans. We've got I think we've got a page or pages now on the website where that could feature, or bits eventually. Anyway, that's what we're planning to do. Yeah. But yeah, it's obviously Jenny. Jenny's the first female Spooks apprentice. A New Darkness. That's where she first.
Oh, I think he's talking about an actual female spook.
I know he's talking about. Well, it could be Jenny taking on an apprentice then.
Yeah.
Well, and if it was a female spook, would she want to take on a female apprentice, or would she go for a lad if he was suitable? I don't know. It's an interesting idea, that.
Yeah. And Claire is saying, she loves the premise of the maths being the seventh son of the seventh son. It just captures something inside, her brain, and just gravitates towards. That's one of the reasons that she picked up the books. Chelsea would love to hear Mam's story. I think a lot of us would.
It's a dark story, actually.
Yeah, someone called Seb's just popped up and has said never been a reader before, but was in a conversation in a bookshop where someone was talking about your books, and they were doing I'm assuming one of them buy one get one free offers or something,
right,
and picked them up and has become a huge fan. I don't meet many people who don't become fans once they've read usually Spooks Apprentice. But when we do school visits, some of the kids gravitate to the covers, Joe, don't they? And they're determined to buy Slither or Grimalkin, or even occasionally, or we try and dissuade them from reading Revenge.
Well, they don't buy them in order, do they? They want to start in the middle, some of them.
Yeah, there was one school where we could have sold about 30 copies of Spooks Revenge for some reason. We politely told them, no, you need to read at least one other book before you read that one. But that's the thing about kids and questions. So Alice Gergen's got a question. The Seventh Son was great in its own right, but she wants to know if you would ever consider a TV series or a Netflix series. Have you got anything you can share with people about that?
Once again, it's something I said before, but I'll repeat it. I mean, the trouble is there's a lot of confusion and problems over contracts. I mean, the film people think they own the rights to the spook indefinitely, which I do not agree. They think they've got it. They've used the word recently, in perpetuity. They think they've got it forever, and I know it's not true. We're fighting that at the moment, trying to get some things sorted out. I think it was 5 years they owned it from when the film first came out. So by now, the rights should belong to us, and we would love to sell it or to do a deal with someone who wants to adapt it for TV. We had a BBC producer interested. It could either be, I prefer BBC personally, but Netflix would be okay as well. But yes, I think it will tell a better story over a 10-week series than it would in the film, that's been made already, because you can't put all that into 1 2-hour film. That's the truth.
No, I agree, and I think more and more these series are starting to be the preferred thing in quality, aren't they? I mean, they did it with Dark Materials, didn't they, last year?
Well, one thought on that, really. I think in a way, The Witcher might have spoilt it for me, really, because the spook in many ways is similar to The Witcher. They might think it's too close. I mean, I had somebody ask the other day, did you copy Spooks off The Witcher? Well, I did not know. The spook first came out. I wrote it probably around the year 2000. and it came out in 2004. That one was first published in the UK. I don't think The Witcher was published in his own country before that, but it was only put into English about 2007, 8, and 9 or something like that. I'm not quite sure. So yeah, the Spooks came first in the English-speaking world. But they are good. I love the Witcher books. I've read them all. And I do think it's, in a way, spoilt it for me a little bit in terms of getting a Netflix series or whatever, because they are quite similar, except it's for adults and I'm writing for children. But at the same time, there are some similarities, the witches and whatever.
Yeah, Matt Shin was just asking, because certain characters do deals, like Mam had to do a deal and Alice has had to do a deal. Does that draw them more into the dark? Do you have that sort of mythology of connection in your story structure? Do you think about that when you let those events happen?
I don't think. I mean, it's like Tom sets out all nice and perfect and good, and he wants to be good and honest and truthful, and would not anywhere near the door, but bit by bit he has to compromise. And I think it tells a human truth. I mean, none of us are perfectly good or neither are we bad. All of us, even the worst people, are somewhere between. We're somewhere between. There are shades of whatever. And I think that's what it is. That's the truth about being a human being. And nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes and we all do nasty things occasionally. And hopefully we're sorry afterwards. That's the life. And I wanted to put that into the books as well. You can't get through life without being contaminated a little bit by the world.
I think that's very true. I mean, Rebecca, who's one of our, I think Rebecca helps run one of the fan Facebook pages in America. She's just asked, how would the Spook and other characters celebrate Christmas? Have you ever thought about the festivals like that? Have you ever been tempted to write a scene where they celebrate Yule or something?
No, I've not. Do you know why? And there's a good reason for that, because when I first started, it was always in the background that it was that the priests were Christian or whatever. And there is, I think, in one book at least, I think there's one reference to Christmas in one book. I think there is. But I then realized, keep it away from that, because it's something you mentioned earlier. You said the books have some kind of universality. Yeah. They appeal to lots of different cultures and lots of different countries. That's why they can be translated successfully into different worlds. So I think to actually pin it down to Christianity and Christmas takes something away from people who want to adapt it for themselves and see it through the prism, if you will, or through the filter, if you will, of their own religious beliefs and whatever. Yeah. So I've tried to back off a little bit from making it too Christian. I've tried to keep that universality. So a priest could be a priest, not just a Christian priest, if it's in a different country, if they translate it into their language.
Yeah. Now, Joe, I've not seen this. You might have done, but Seb's just mentioned the Pendle Sculpture Trail in Barley.
I don't know that.
Made out of barley. Have you? We've done some research. We went to Skipton and Mother Shipton's cave and a few places and up to the lakes for some research a while ago, didn't we? Because you like to get a feel for possible locations and the lay of the land.
Standing stones near Keswick.
How far can you actually see with the naked eye in light and dark? Because I think we were both on the same day, didn't we, at one time? Yeah. But no, we'll have to have another, because you have an open competition for a prize for a photo of the Pendle Witch in snow, don't you? On Pendle
Snow Witch, yeah. That's nobody's ever tried to get that. Nobody's ever taken a picture, because the snow doesn't last very long, and it's only as the snow's melting on one side of Pendle. I think there's a witch on a broomstick, but it's only there maybe for a few hours or a day at the most. And there's one picture which I sometimes use on the PowerPoints, but it doesn't belong to me. I have no idea who took that picture, But I mean, nobody's ever come back and given me another one yet.
We drove past one time and thought there might have been a bit of snow there, but we were racing off to Colne or somewhere like that with Anissa, one of our
it's on the Clitheroe side. It's on the Clitheroe side actually. Yeah. And I can if I get close enough to the hill, I can identify the ravine. It's a ravine, it's a gully. And when that fills with snow, that gives you the shape of the witch and a little bit and a depression on the side for the broomstick. But it's sort of, it must happen again. It's not just a one-off fluke that, and then it's still open. That's the big prize. Set of all the books maybe if anyone comes up with a really
that might get the local pub, Rebecca and some of the others who are stuck.
Well, this is the time over the next 2 months.
This is
when to have your camera ready over the next 2 months.
Rebecca has got a good question here. In your last reading, you had Wolf was able to summon Thorn. Will the two of them end up as inverted commas friends? Tilda clearly fancies a relationship with Wolf, but could Thorn be competition for Tilda? That's an interesting premise.
The answer to that is yes.
Oh, is it now? Are you giving
Well, it's a
allowed
thought
to
that's
give anything away?
spinning around inside my head, you know. I mean, again, I can't give too much away. There's a lot of time shifts and things in Wolf 3. So again, I can't even tell you which bit of the book I read to you last time.
It was from midway, and it wasn't the beginning, was it? It was, yeah.
But, so I don't want to say too much, but all those are possibilities.
Yeah. So Joe, and you've got a few fans called Alice. I hope that's their real names and they haven't changed their name to a character. Actually, people do, don't they? Which of the characters do you genuinely identify with the most?
Me? Who do I identify with?
Yeah.
I suppose the easiest one, obviously, the easiest ones are Tom, Tom, because I still remember what it's like to be 13 and 14 and 15. I can close my eyes and be 14 and 15 again, really. But so basically, but the spook. But then again, strangely though, obviously, I'm not female. I don't kill people with blades. Grimalkin is good to write. She's really fun to write. When you're looking through the eyes of Grimalkin,
she's my favourite character. Always has been.
I Am Grimalkin was one of the best books to write of the whole series for me. I really enjoyed that.
It was the poem at the end that just made it for me. You know, a little mantra that she has near the end, which is fabulous. Now, Veronica, who I'm assuming might be in France, but might not be, but she would love to see Alice have her own series. Would that interest you?
Well, there already is an Alice book. That's true. You know, I Am Alice. Near the end of the series, but it is a possibility that you see. There are so many possibilities. Would I ever get a chance to write it? At one time, I was doing 2 books a year, but I don't do that anymore. But it's not impossible. It's like somebody said before. You said before, would you go back and write Mam's story? I've already done Alice in a way. You could argue, but there could always be another Alice story or another Alice book. Yes.
So apparently there is at least one picture of the Pendle Snow Witch on Google.
All right. We might be the one. Is it the one I've got?
Own photo to be legitimate. I think you're best owning the image to enter it for competition.
Oh yeah, you've got to obtain it yourself, or a friend's got to obtain it.
Yeah. All right. We've got time for a couple more questions because they're still flying in. Matt wants to know: have you ever thought about taking the spook to another mythical place like the pyramids of Egypt or Stonehenge? You know, having a proper, I'm assuming, time shift to you know, an alternate past. Have you ever thought of going that far back?
I've considered stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's very unlikely to happen. I mean, we've done we've been to Greece, and I think that's our one. And
Ireland. You did Ireland and the Isle of Man.
Greece, Isle of Man, Ireland. Those are our adventures abroad. And Tom Ward, of course, he went to the far north, didn't he, to fight the Cobbler. So he's been across the sea as well, the North Sea. But I don't think at the moment have plans to go outside England and the county.
Rebecca's also asked, have you got an actual favourite place in the county / Lancashire? Is there somewhere where if you could pick anywhere to live, would you move somewhere? You build a house effectively.
When I first started getting published, and I talked about that, and I wanted to move to Chipping, you know. I mean, because it's got a great view of the fells behind, Parlick Pike and Wolf Fell. And I think the houses are quite expensive there, and I don't think they come. The house you'd want would not become available very often, if you understand what I mean. But yeah, we looked at a few and I like it. I like Chipping because it's only about 5 miles from Longridge, but there's no big road goes past it. You know, to go there, it's a windy road. You understand? It comes along the Ribble Valley, then up into so there's you've not got that noise. It feels a bit isolated. Yet you're not that far away. You could be in Preston in sort of not that many minutes really.
And it's a nice nature feel to it as well, isn't it? You do feel like you are actually in proper countryside, don't you?
Yeah. So Chippenden called in the books is really Chipping, and that is where I would like to live. I probably will never live there now, but it was something we were thinking about it seriously. We were actually drifting towards it, and it wasn't because it's not too far away yet. You've got that sense of isolation. You're away from the noise. With good views of the fells.
I mean,
and views of the sea. You can see the sea from that area. You know.
So we've got someone called Nicholas who's down in South Africa. I don't know if you're the first person who's joined us from South Africa, which is amazing. The reach of the Joseph Delaney fan page. It's amazing. Hopefully the books are out in South Africa. Do you actually know, Joe?
They are actually what they usually are. They're exported. They're exported to
Oh,
India.
so
They're exported to Australia. They're English, but they're exported to South Africa. I don't know the sales are particularly good, but they are sent there.
Well, Nicholas, you need to start a fan club down there and get boosting the sales for us. It'd be great if you could. Rose has asked a very curious question, but I like questions like this. Which was the worst book for you to write in the series?
Oh,
So,
well,
I suppose you can answer that in two ways, I think.
No, I've answered this before to people because it's something I've been asked before, but it's true. The second one, the Spooks Curse. And the only reason it was the worst one to write was because I was still teaching full time. And I was getting up early in the morning to write it and everything. And I'd done that successful with the Spooks Apprentice because I didn't have deadlines. Because I had all the time in the world. When it was ready, we sent it off and it eventually got picked up. But with this one, I had a deadline. It was like October the 26th or something. And I was working full time, imagine that. So, and then it was worse when it came back to be edited. Because when you actually write a book, if you've got an hour in the morning before you go to work, you can probably write 500 words or 700 words. But if you're editing a book, you need hours. You need to sit down and concentrate. And if you make one change, you've got to be aware that then there'll be a lot of other changes to make elsewhere in the book. It's like ripples going through the book, through the narrative. So that was the hardest one because I was still a full-time teacher. And it was only by the time I'd almost finished that book that I became a full-time writer. So that was a hard one with a deadline, the editing to do, and I'm still doing a full teaching job.
Yeah. And Tristan's asked, I think Tristan, like a few people, is actually a writer and wants to write. I mean, it's hard to say exactly what advice you can give anyone else over their writing, but have you got a couple of wise words you can throw out for Tristan and anyone else who is? Dylan also is writing. And
yeah, you obviously depends what kind of thing you want to write. I mean, I'm a genre writer, so I'm writing adventure tales within a particular world. You want to be different to a certain extent, so you're looking for I think my method is not to actually start to write with a full detailed plot inside your head. I don't work going down a line, knowing what's going to happen to the next branch or whatever. I'm discovering as I go along. Secondly, you may only get a few really good ideas in your whole life. I've only had a few decent ideas, it's true. So you've got to write all the possible ideas you might get into your notebook. Most of them will be rubbish. Some of them won't be worth writing. Some of them will have been written already by other writers. But if you write them all in your book, and it was like me with the Spooks Apprentice idea. It was 18 years before I realized that I could turn that into a book. I wrote it years and years earlier. So it's first of all, it's actually the ideas you've got to get. And people say, you've got to make time to write as well. I got up early to write before I went to work. That was the only way I could manage it. But a lot of people, and I was the same for many, many years, you dream and you talk about writing. It's a fantasy. You're going to become a writer, but you never do any writing. It's true. So many people do that. And I know why. It's not because there's something wrong. It's because I was the same. It's because you're distracted by life. Life gets in the way. You have too many things to do. You're at school, you're at uni, or you've got a job, you've got things to do, you've got a family. All those are good distractions in some case, but they stop your writing. The only way you can write is if you make time and you write frequently. You've got to write several times a week. That's the way. Because you're learning and of course reading. As you read, you're learning to write. That's the other thing I would say. So if you're a big reader, you're well on the way to becoming a writer.
Excellent. And Nicholas down in South Africa is up for running a fan club in South Africa. Nicholas, go for it. That I'm sure we can get some info and pictures to you at some point that might help you set a website up or something. But he's very keen to know a little bit more about Slither and the Cabelos. If you can remember where you dredged them up from. Have you got anything?
It's interesting that because the Slither was for like 9 years or more. I'm writing a book a year. And the science fiction books written for adults or fantasy books for adults. And Slither was a totally different book, but it was the character that got me. Like this creature that lived in a tree and preyed upon humans and was magical as well. And I'd written about him and it had been rejected. He'd probably been rejected about 9 times by adult publishers. So I thought at one point, could we incorporate this into the Spooks series? That's how it happened, you see. So I thought of this, where does he come from? So you start to ask yourself questions to which initially you might not know the answer. I thought, well, I've got Slither. He's living in this tree, not far from whatever. I thought, well, where does he come from? What kind of a world does he come from? Then you think, oh, the far north, he lives in a world of ice and snow. What are the people like? And then there was something strange came to my head. What about creatures, the male, that have killed all the females? That was a horrible thing. They've murdered all the females for some reason. And that was another strange thing in the book. And that stayed in the books as well, you know? So again, when you start with something, you don't know where it's going to go. One thing leads to another. You ask yourself a question to which you don't have the answer, but one night it pops into your head. You might be watching something on telly. You might be reading a book. You might wake up in the morning and suddenly the answer's there. So this is another tip for writing as well. When you're writing, you don't necessarily want to know where you're going in every detail. But when you've got a problem, ask yourself, ask it inside your head and speak it out loud. What happens next? What will he do? Who's his mother? Who's his dad? What are his people like? Where do they live? And eventually the answers drift into your head. That's what works for me anyway.
Now, Alice wants to know, you've got a best time to write now? Do you set yourself a time?
No, not now. No, I did.
No?
I did. I had to write in the morning before I went to work. I said this before. I would get up very early and I'd work for an hour, and then I'd get my shower and a cup of coffee, and off I go and teach for the rest of the day. And I wrote while I was fresh. I no longer do that unless I'm desperate. if things are not going well, or I've got a block of some kind, or maybe I've got a deadline I feel I might not be able to meet, there's no doubt in my mind at all. You get up first thing in the morning, drink a cup of coffee, sit down and write. Don't mess about with your emails, answering your emails, write. And that works for me. But at the moment, you see, because I'm actually full-time writer, I can write when I want. It's a case of, am I ready to write? How do I feel about writing? And then once I start to write, it could be in the afternoon. I might even write a bit when this is finished, actually, because I've had something to eat. I've a few hours before it's time to go to bed. So I might actually look back at the science fiction book, or I might have another quick look at Wolf before I stop, Wolf 4 before I stop. So I might do a bit of writing tonight.
And you've slightly answered something else that she asked. Are you a get up early and have a cup of tea person? But you're not. You're a coffee guy, aren't you?
I'm a coffee guy. Yeah, I used to be. I can't get up in the morning at all, guy. My mother used to have to drag me out of bed. But I think that's probably a teenage thing. You know, when you're young, you don't want to get up. But now I do like to get up quite early in the morning. Yeah, I can get up at 6 if I need to, or even 5:30 if I want to. More likely, I'm going to get up at 7. But and then that's when I'm really at my best for writing.
Well, it's the solstice tonight, isn't it? So I suppose you could stay up all night and write.
I could do a long night. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever done that? Written for 24
Through
hours?
the night?
Yeah.
No, not really. No. I feel after a bit you suddenly do get tired, and there's nothing wrong. It's not like, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. It's as if the inspiration becomes tired, if you understand what I mean. If you've written enough, it's better to wait till you're fresh to write some more. The most I've ever written in one day is 3,000 words of a book. And I think I wrote that because I was on a roll, it was going well, and it was dialogue. I find dialogue the easiest thing to write. So to write 3,000 words of dialogue wasn't too difficult. I could not write 3,000 words of action or 3,000 words of, I don't know. So usually I write 500 words a day, or maybe 700. Sometimes only 2 or 3 when things are not going that well. But it's worth even writing 20. If you can't do anything on a particular day, another tip for writing here, you come back to what you've written the day before, you edit it, you look through it and try to improve it, then you try to write on. If you can't write much, it's better to stop sometimes after an hour or so, and I might only add 100 words, but it's better to write something than nothing. And then the day after, the inspiration might begin again.
So I think we're going to have to call a halt to things in a minute or two, because Joe has got other things to do, and I'm sure we all have as well. The one thing I would love to say to you all is thank you very much for finding time to join us from all around the world. It's been a delight to see people popping up from South Africa, the Philippines. We know we've got French and American fans, but you're at Singapore, you're everywhere. It's amazing. And happy Yule to Jay and lots of you. So don't forget 2 things. All you need to do to stand a chance of winning are signed copies. Joe's signed them for me. They're here ready to be posted when Linda picks 5 winners. Is just tell us simply how and why and where you became a fan of the Spooks. And, you know, Linda will go through them, probably have a quick word with Joe in case, you know, there's something that she wants to run past him. We'll pick 5 winners. You can send us an address and I will post the books to you. And I think we might still have some bookmarks and postcards, Joe, as well, mightn't we?
With plenty of bookmarks we have. Yeah.
Plenty of things like that. So we'll always have things like that sent to you. Michael's just asked, do you actually own a cat? You've told stories about cats to children.
No, I don't have a cat now. I stopped having cats really. Well, I must say I stopped because I didn't have. I had cats when I was younger. When I say younger, in my 30s and 40s, we always had cats.
Yeah,
and I like cats. But
you tell a story to children about cats, don't you?
Oh, the squash cat, yeah, but no,
Yeah,
I won't repeat that now.
No, we'll do that another time. The squash cat, yeah.
Yeah.
So Rachel's down in New Zealand, which is, you know, she probably knows Linda. She might be a neighbour.
It's a bigger country.
Alice and Rebecca want Christmas dinner cooked by the bucket, by the house bucket. Yeah, do a Christmas dinner.
As long as you don't go down too early and get your head slapped.
Yeah, exactly.
It's angry if you go down too early for breakfast.
Yeah, but no, we've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you all tonight. We know we haven't answered every question. They fly by so quickly. And the problem is I only see 5 or 6 at a time on the screen and I'm reading them and then another one pops up and they've gone. So I'm sure Linda will go through them and answer as many as she can and quickly refer to Joe if she has to. Keep following the page because we've done a few of these, Joe, and they're, you know, they're a nice way of reaching out and meeting people, aren't they? So I'm sure in the new year, Joe will have something to share that we can put another one of these together. When you're out there, you can order your books from anywhere local. You can use Amazon and any of those places. But if you want them signed or dedicated for yourself or for presents, there was a lady in New Zealand ordered some the other day, Joe, do you remember?
Yeah.
And she ordered them through my website and then Joe signed them and I posted them on. In the UK, I post them for free. When I'm posting them abroad, I do have to charge some postage. It rocketed up a while ago. Does seem to have come down now. I posted some books to America the other day, and it was about £8, which is probably about $8 or $10. So that's not too bad, really. Makes more sense to order more than one book. The postage roughly will stay the same up to about 4 or 5 books, Joe. I think it's something like that, isn't it? There's a weight balance, isn't there? Up to 2 kilos. It costs the same as posting 1 book or 3, 4 or 5. So, you know, think ahead. If you want to treat someone, I know Jay was saying they've ordered about 7 or 8 copies of Spooks Apprentice and gifted them to people. That's a nice thing to do. Didn't your publishers do that on a railway station one time, Joe?
What, gift books away?
Did they do something at some publicity event where they gifted 50 copies to people at a railway station, or have I misremembered?
No, I don't remember that.
No.
I know they once had 3 people in costumes in Manchester on a street giving copies of the Spook away.
Oh, that could have been it.
Hundreds and hundreds away,
Yeah, that could have been it, yeah. You know, but yeah, so my website's beyond-books.co.uk. It was up in the chat. I'll pop it in again in a minute. You know, you're welcome to interact with myself. Joe and Linda will always get back to you with answers to questions. Do have as happy and a relaxing period of rest and reflection and enjoyment, whatever you call it, because everyone calls Christmas something different. You know, we'll be having traditional, you know, turkey, won't we, Joe? I would imagine. Is it turkey and stuffing and roast potatoes for you, Joe?
It might be a Thai meal, I'm not sure.
Oh, you might have a time. That's a bit different. That's nice, isn't it? Yeah, we've done alternate Christmases a few times in the past. They can make a pleasant change. So, the very, very last thing. Claire's just asked about symbols and numerals representing different boggarts.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're different to the books, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So you could almost have a poster done of arcane symbols sometime. There's got to be an artist out there who could work on that for you, Joe, I would imagine.
Yeah, you could develop it further. Yeah. I nearly took it a lot further originally.
Yeah. Well, Rain, if you go to beyond-books.co.uk and you can send me a message. If any of you want to order anything, and sometimes Joe can sign things called book plates, Joe, can't you? That
I can, yeah.
they can be peeled off and stuck inside books. So, you know, we do get them from the publishers every so often. So, you know, if you've genuinely bought books and you're missing one, then drop me an email. My email is tonythebook@live.co.uk. I'll pop it in the chat now. So, you know, a few of you do keep in touch, and it's nice to have new friends. So, you know, I'm here to help as well. So anyway, folks, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself tonight. It's a pleasure to do these things. A happy Christmas, a happy Yule, a happy whatever you want to call it to one and all. And I'm sure we're all going to hit the like button or the love button underneath the like button and say thank you to Joe for giving us another hour of his time. Flown by.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, guys. We're going to stop the recording